From the home of the nation's longest winning streak at home, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, it's time for Thursday night football as the Seattle Seahawks come to town, and it's the first of 5 straight games against teams with records over 500 for the Dallas Cowboys. It is the toughest stretch of the season for Dak Prescott and company, and they will be tested tonight in front of an AT&T Stadium crowd. And we are here from AT&T Stadium. Cowboys pregame live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort, with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, soon to be joined by Nick Eatman, Nicole Hutchison as well. The whole crew is here, and for the first time ever, we're down on the sideline. How about
yes,
that?
Sir.
It's a very Seattle-esque type day, wouldn't you say, Isaiah? You lived up there for a little bit.
Absolutely. I was up there, but guess where I live now? D-Town, baby.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Be where your feet are planted. That's what it's always said, and there's an opportunity to do that tonight. Now, Barry, this is a really tough stretch for this Dallas Cowboys team. They are going into not only this game, but a number of games coming up where they have to get the job done. And you have to do it against good teams. I mean, what's on your mind going into this first challenge?
Well, I think everybody up there can acknowledge the Dallas Cowboys, I think, are an explosive team, both offensively and defensively. But when you look at the teams they played against, none of them, or they got the W's against, none of them have a winning record out here. I think this will be the first team that will actually test this team, at least offensively. Dak Prescott and the crew out there, they will test them, because that defense for the Seattle Seahawks, they are loaded on every level of their defense. D-line, linebackers, secondary, they got a defense that can match up with the playmakers of the Dallas Cowboys. So this will be a big-time test for Dak and this offense overall.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Barry, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and flip it to the offensive side for Seattle and the challenge that they're going to present to the Dallas Cowboys. These guys have Pro Bowl receivers on both sides.
Yes.
You look to the left, you got a DK Metcalf. You look to the right, you have a Tyler Lockett. Right on the inside, you have a young Wrigley and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and that boy is nasty, ooh-wee nasty. So you have to be able to acknowledge the fact that these guys do have the weapons. They have had a rough sled. They are not producing the way that they produced last year offensively, but a lot of those worries are coming from the offensive line. If they can find a way to give Geno some time, then you have to account for these receivers that they have, because these guys are dangerous.
These people are fighting for a playoff spot. They're 6-5. They need to play well. What Pete Carroll is going to have, he's going to let his players know, hey, we're on the downside. We need to come up with start with the Dallas Cowboys. So you better look for a physical game from Pete Carroll and his crew.
Yeah, and this is a group that's looking to try and find a bit of rhythm as well. They've lost 2 straight games. Seattle coming off of back-to-back losses for the first time all season. Still a very good team. As we take a look at the way they've really seen that drop-off, it hasn't looked good really on both sides of the ball. They've had that highly vaulted young defense, and then they've got Geno Smith and a bunch of weapons on the offensive side. But, Barry, when you look at these numbers, I mean, what is the number one area of concern for you?
When I look at these stats right here, the number one concern for me is, when I look at it, it's points allowed defensively. They're averaging 27.8 points allowed, and that's something that this Seattle team has not become accustomed to. When you talk about the Legion of Boom and all those big-time defenses they had, this is a defense, I believe, that is explosive. They have weapons on each level of the defense, but they just haven't been able to kind of play to that level that we're used to seeing from a Seattle. So if they're able to get pressure on Dak Prescott, if they're able to lock those corners up on the outside and play Seattle ball, this will be a big-time test. But overall, we just haven't seen that quite yet from the Seattle defense.
Yeah, when I look at those stats right there, I look at straight at the complimentary side of things. Offensively, the sack differential is a -7 for Seattle right now. The offensive line is not giving them any kind of form of protection. Geno Smith is refusing to set his feet because of the pressure that's in his face. He's not able to step up in the pocket. He's not able to get outside the pocket. So that's why he's getting sacked, and those guys are having those numbers. And then you look at their rushing ability, -300+ yards in the rushing game. Seattle has always been predicated on their ability to rush the ball. If they can't get to that, they can't get to any other aspect of their team, of their offense, and that is why they're struggling this year so far.
Everything is played through their defense. Pete Carroll always have made things go through his defense with a sound run game like Isaiah talking about. But what they need is for their quarterback, Geno, to play superb. When he's playing superb and on point, this team flows. But everything runs through their defense.
I think for the most part, you look at Geno Smith and company and what he's brought to the table each of these last 2 years. He's been a different quarterback this year than he was last year, and that's something significant for the fact that he was one of the best players in the NFL last year, and that's not an over-exaggeration. He was a top quarterback, Isaiah. When you look at what has been different this year, is it just based on the offensive line?
I'm going to go straight to the protection, and I can't just put it solely on the protection, but I can tell you as a quarterback, if you can't set your feet and if you can't drive the ball the way you want to with your basic mechanics, you're not going to be successful at that position. And you talk about any quarterback, nobody likes to be hit. I can tell you that right now. So if you have pressure coming from the outside and you're getting pressure from the inside, which is what happened with his team right now, he has nowhere to go. You talk about a team that's at the top of the league in terms of pressures given up. Over 40% of his dropbacks, he has somebody in his face. He's having to get rid of the ball before he's supposed to. And when that timing is off in a West Coast-style offense, you're going to see the result, and that result is bad plays.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to be a good quarterback in this league if you got people coming right down your face. I'm talking about interior defensive line, guys on the edge. If your offense is that leaky, all right, we talk about the offensive line. You're not going to be able to establish anything as far as an offensive production-wise. But I also got to say this, that running game is not the same as it was last year.
Right.
When you had Kenneth Walker III healthy last year, they were able to have that balanced attack. He's been in and out of the lineup. That has hurt this team because it's forced them to rely more on Geno Smith throwing than it is running as well and being balanced. So to me, it's a combination of the offensive line being leaky and the lack of the use of the run game.
They've had injuries on the offensive line, and so when you have injuries, you get no continuity. So that's why a lot of that leakiness is about that. And the run game normally slows all of that down.
Right.
It gives you a kind of a rhythm. But they ain't been able to get that going with the Walker kid being out. And Geno has missed time. So they have no continuity. Isaiah said this off camera. They are lacking confidence. Let's make sure they don't gather during this game.
You know who has, one, played well this year, two, had a ton of confidence, and three, maybe emerging in the MVP conversation? It's the quarterback on the opposite side of things.
Yeah.
It's Dak Prescott. Look at the highest graded quarterbacks in the NFL here in 2023. Number one on the list, it's not Patrick Mahomes. It's not Josh Allen. It's not even Tua Tagovailoa, who's had a great year. It's Dak Prescott. And it's been over these last couple weeks that he's continued to take a step in the right direction, and he hasn't looked back ever since. What has he been doing the best over these last few weeks?
I think it's come down to this decision-making. I mean, especially coming off of last year when he was compounding the issues, trying to force things in there when it was double and triple covered. Now you see at this time and age, he's backing up. He's saying, all right, if my number one guy's not there, my number two guy's not there, let me go ahead and dump this thing off to Tony Pollard and let him get busy. He realizes that he has multiple weapons out there, not just CeeDee Lamb. He's spreading the ball around, especially these last couple weeks, to Brandon Cooks, to Gallup, to Tolbert. And not to mention, this guy has been using his legs this year. Last year, he wasn't using his legs as much. This year, he's converting third downs. He's extending drives while using his legs out there. And to me, this is the best football Dak Prescott has played with the Dallas Cowboys uniform on.
Yeah, in addition to his decision-making, he's being decisive when he actually does make the right decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's getting the ball out on time. You talk about Coach McCarthy always referring to his footwork in the pocket, the quarterbacks they are, and getting the ball out in 2.3 seconds. He's doing that. He's making good throws, accurate throws to these receivers as they come out of their breaks. It is giving them the ability to go ahead and pack on some yak yardage, yards after catch. And when you can catch the ball on the run in the West Coast offense, whether it's a slant or whether it's a deep over, now you're giving your receivers the ability to utilize their assets.
I think what he's finally realized is that he's past that injury, that ankle injury. I think the team and him wanted to sit in the pocket and not move around fearing injury. Now he knows the injuries come. So now he moves around with much confidence. He understands what Mike McCarthy wants, and he checks it down. And, man, when you have somebody like Aaron Rodgers telling you you're doing a great job, you're doing a great job.
That is saying something. But another thing that was saying something was, Isaiah, when you were elaborating on Dak Prescott, Nate Newton was just ear to ear smiling. I mean, this is what Cowboys Nation has been looking for, but there has been a knock against maybe some of his good performances. It's the fact that it's come against the lesser teams in the NFL, and that's my reaction too. It's still NFL teams. It's still some of those opponents that, of course, that get paid to play the game of football. This is what Dak had to say earlier in the week about playing these teams coming up over the next 5 games that are all over 500, and a chance to really prove that this offense is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is tough in general. I've said it over and over again, obsessed with records or say this team is good or bad based on this record. I mean, injuries, a lot of things play into records a lot of times. But understanding, that the teams we've played records haven't been great. But I can promise you, everybody that comes in and everybody that we play, we do get their best shot. And not to say I don't think everybody else does that, but when you play the Dallas Cowboys, I can promise you the other teams, it is a little bit bigger than some of the games that they play, and that comes from people around the league. They always talk about it. Players that come in, free agents that come in, they mention it. So we're getting people's best shots. And then now as we move forward and teams with better records, we're still going to get their best shot. And so it's important for us, as I said, to continue to grow and build on what we've done and understand that, yeah, we've won some games. We've won some games in a tough league, but at the end of the day, it's about the next game. And right now we've got a good Seattle teams coming in. I understand they've dropped a couple here recently, but this is a good team, and they probably need this win more than a lot of teams in the league right now, just with the way the playoffs and everything's starting to set up as you get football going after Thanksgiving. So not taking anybody lightly, and just understand this is about us and our growth.
One of the top-graded quarterbacks in all of football right now, Dak Prescott, looks cool, calm, and collected, as he normally does whenever he's going into a matchup like this. He's been in these Thursday Night Football primetime games before. It's part of it as a part of the Dallas Cowboys. And we welcome in for the first time tonight, Nick Eatman joining the show. Nick,
What's up?
It's a little different. We normally talk to you over the phone.
I can hear you.
I know.
I can see you guys. It's everything.
This is next level. It feels like preseason ball because we have Countdown to Kickoff
right.
and the show that we get to do on the field. I mean, this is a first-time thing.
Other than Dak playing.
That's
Yes,
a different
right.
thing. That's a number one thing. I'm really excited to be here because
I
it
know
is
you're
a
excited.
phenomenal thing. We can talk about that later. But for the most part, I'm excited to finally see what this Cowboys team has against the team above 500. That's got to be the buzz right now.
Yeah.
It kind of has a bit of a feel to it.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about this gauntlet, like here it goes, in Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, all the Detroit. But yeah, it starts here. It starts with Seattle, and even though that they're struggling a little bit, I feel like this is a game that they're almost desperate. And when you face a desperate team, that's scary too. So I think that the Cowboys are going to have probably the toughest game they've played here at AT&T Stadium.
So, Nick, when coming from the defensive side of the football, we know Seattle, they're explosive. They got the trio at wide receiver, Metcalf, Lockett, all those guys.
Oh,
they
you didn't want to say the other guy?
No, we ain't going to say him. We ain't going to say him just yet.
Jackson Smith and
There you
Chip.
go.
There we go. I didn't want to butcher
listen,
it. I didn't want to butcher it.
Listen, he's a Rockwall, Texas native. He needs to have the respect. He's
Okay, I ain't from
up
Texas,
here.
though. But, so, what weapon offensively for the Seahawks does the Dallas Cowboys have to neutralize to make sure that this game doesn't get out of hand?
As much as DK Metcalf looks like, Superman, whatever, I always think it's Lockett. I think because, when you look at the corners, who's playing the best, when you've rated those three corners, I would say Jordan Lewis is struggling a little bit more than the others. And Tyler Lockett seems like he's a guy that could really just, you look up and he's got 8, 9, 10 catches, and he could just work, and he gives Geno a little bit more confidence. So Metcalf can make the big plays, but Tyler Lockett always seems like the guy that's just a pain in the butt and to stop, and he could be that tonight.
Now, Nick, you know that the offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks is probably the weakest link on their team.
Yeah.
Right? We understand that that's where the advantage is for the Dallas Cowboys. But what do you believe when the Seattle Seahawks are hitting on all cylinders? What do you think the biggest threat is for their team against Dallas?
Well, I think that they have to be balanced. They have to figure out a way to run the ball. It seems like Pete Carroll is kind of, they're kind of hard-headed and like, we're going to run. We're just going to keep running. And kind of like we've seen here with the Cowboys, and sometimes that's a good thing. But I think if they're balanced, then I think that's where it's going to be tough. We'll see what happens with their running backs and who plays there. But, Geno, he's been sacked 6 times. That's a stat that I looked at the other day. In their 6 wins, he's been sacked 9 times. In their 5 losses, he's been sacked 18 times. Oh. So, obviously, keeping him upright is important.
It is important, but I want to get the most important matchup that you're keeping an eye on going into this game. If this one is won or lost by the Cowboys, it could be the difference in the game.
Man, I already said Jordan Lewis and Tyler Lockett. That would have been the one.
The one?
Yeah, I didn't know you were asking that one. But, yeah, I think so. I think that's the big one for me. And then also, who's going to stop Micah Parsons? I mean, what do they do there? Are they going to sell out there and try to, make sure he gets chips and everything? Or is he going to, be rushing from all over the place? to me, it's always Micah Parsons. Like, what do they do there? I know the other guy might get Defensive Player of the Year and all that stuff, but I still think it starts with Micah to me.
So Nick, what do you need to see from this Cowboys team? I know we talk about, they haven't beaten anybody with a 500 record.
Yeah.
But going into this game, what do you need to see to say, okay, this team has arrived?
Well, I think they've arrived. I really do think so. But I think that, just like I said, Seattle's going to be desperate. Seattle's playing for something as well. And their schedule is very Gauntlet-like, too, like who they've got coming up. And they've already faced the Niners, face them again. They got the Eagles. So they've got to start winning games. And I think that for them, I think for the Cowboys, if they go and take care of business tonight, kind of the same way, if they put it on Seattle like they put it on some other teams, I mean, it's going to be hard to ignore that they are right there in front. But we all know, until you beat Philly, until you beat the Niners, there's going to be that asterisk, and that's fine. That's why we play it.
It's another chance to really give a measuring stick as to where this team is. Last time you got an opportunity was Philadelphia, and you fell just short, 28-23 a couple weeks ago. Then you've won 3 straight. You continue to check the boxes. Look like you're moving in the right direction. It's a chance to put that on the field tonight. I think that's what we're all excited about. It's an opportunity to do that. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. We'll check in with you again down the road. But you mentioned Daron Bland a couple times. Let's hear from Daron Bland about not chasing those big plays. He already has the record. He could continue to add on to it, but that's not necessarily the goal.
Can't go out there chasing plays, or you're not going to make plays at all, because when you try to chase plays, like sometimes those plays don't happen, and then the other plays happen, and you got the big plays on you when they're scoring. So I just say just not trying to chase it.
Yeah. Interceptions aside, touchdowns aside, what about your second season are you most proud of in terms of what you're doing out there?
I would say just keep probably just like doing day by day, not making anything bigger than what it is.
When we talked to your teammates about you, they mentioned your humility, and so I guess this is a chance to maybe brag on them, because I've heard a cornerback's best friend is a good pass rush.
Yeah, oh, definitely. That's what we always talked about with the D-line. They always say give me like 2 to 3 seconds and get there. And with a D-line like that, you love when you hear that. You know what type of plays you can make, and it's not always going to be like extended plays.
Do you pay attention to the Defensive Player of the Year talk?
No, not really. I hear it. People saying like I should be in it, but if it happens, it happens.
No friendly competition with Micah or anything on that?
Nah.
A hell of a player, prepares, does everything the right way.
Picked off by Bland. He's done it again.
So who knows where he's going to extend this record.
Picked off. It's Bland. It's Bland. He did it again.
It's crazy. Like, what he's doing is unheard of.
Touchdown for Daron Bland.
Daron is just, his playmaking ability is special.
5 touchdowns, the most pick sixes in one season.
NFL history. Here you go, dude.
I just can't get enough of watching the pictures, the sounds, the highlights of Daron Bland, and neither can Cowboys Nation, neither can Daron Bland, because look at what he continues to do night in, night out, week in, week out. It feels like he's making impact plays for this Cowboys defense. It's impressive what he's done to this point. To even get to this point was hard enough for the 5th-round pick. But not only that, he's now surpassed that, and he's being talked about, Barry, as one of the top defensive backs in the NFL.
Without a doubt, I believe he's a top 3 corner in the National Football League. And when you look at Daron Bland, I say this on the Players Lounge all the time. Organizations will take a guy that can take the football away rather than a guy that can just shadow receivers. And the example I put out there was Byron Jones. All right, Byron Jones is a heck of a corner for the Dallas Cowboys, and he could just shadow everybody. He's going to give you 15 to 20 pass breakups a season. And he won't even allow over 100 yards, but he won't take the football away. What Daron Bland is doing is special. Not only intercepting the football, but being able to have the ability to take it back all the way to the end zone. That's a special trait that only certain corners can have, and that guy, Daron Bland, has it.
You know what else is special, Barry?
What's happening?
Being prepared and being ready for your opportunities. You talk about the position that the Dallas Cowboys ran last year whenever they lost J. Lou. Who stepped up? Daron Bland. Daron Bland stepped up, went in there, got 5 interceptions. Okay, following that season, coming to the second year, now all of a sudden, all the big time Mr. Trayvon Diggs, all right, we all miss him. He goes down. Who's ready to step up and bump outside? Daron Bland. So when preparation meets opportunity, This is the result of that. This dude is absolutely balling out, and he's taking full advantage of anything that the quarterbacks throw out there. You want to overthrow it? I'm going to get those. You want to throw it high? I'm going to go up and eat cereal off your head and take it from your receiver. And if you want to underthrow that thing, I'm going to intercept it, and I'm going to run it back, and I'm going to hit you with the ooh-wee on the way to the touchdown. This dude is doing his thing, but shout out to him. Shout out to this coaching staff for making sure he's prepared for an opportunity when it presented itself.
What did you just say? Whoa, wait. What was that metaphor that you put out there?
Something about cereal off the top of the head.
Eating cereal off the top of his helmet. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a thing?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Captain Crunch?
That? Oh, yeah.
It's got to be Captain Crunch. You got to get that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You guys are too much. You guys are too much. The wild berry's about the same as the.
Don't get off my game, man. Get off my
that thing is.
Man,
That thing's fresh.
My wife stepped up to the plate on this.
I see what you did.
Wife's in her bag.
I see it.
Hey, Daron Bland, just keep doing what you're doing. These dudes over here cutting up, man.
Keep doing what you're doing. He's going to have to do it today against one of the top wide receiver trios in the NFC.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that presents some challenges on the outside. DK Metcalf, a freak of nature. I mean, talk about one of the most athletic individuals, not regardless of position, but just specimen of an athlete out on the outside. Then you've got Tyler Lockett, the wily veteran. Then you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, the local product. He went to Ohio State. I know you said you're not from Texas. He went to Ohio State.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
There it is. You got it. But he's a first-round pick.
This is true.
There are so many weapons here. Whenever you're looking at a team like this that have weapons across the board, Barry, as a defender, how do you note that, and how does that change your game?
Well, when you look at it, every competitor and every defender wants to go against the best. And I believe this is the best wide receiver trio that the Dallas Cowboys will have to go against this season. You already talked about what Metcalf, what Njigba, what Lockett bring to the table, and they all bring their special suit. But to me, what goes on here is all about the defense. And you talk about Daron Bland and Gilmore on the outside locking these guys down. I believe they can do that. The only thing that kind of gets me a little bit stressful about this is that slot. If those guys go into that slot against Jay Lou, who hasn't been at his top game so far this year, I think they can take care of this matchup. But when you look at it, it all comes down to, can that offensive line protect against this D-line? I do not think Geno Smith's going to have the time back there to exploit any mismatches he may think this team has.
Yeah, I don't believe he's going to have the time either, Barry. But the one thing I want everybody to pay attention to in this game is whether or not Dallas Cowboys defensive backs can get their hands on the receivers of the Seattle Seahawks at the line of scrimmage. When you look at the film, these guys are struggling to get off the ball. A lot of their concepts that they have, their coaches calling the plays right, are based upon the coverage that's being presented. But these guys are messing up on their routes because the defensive backs are able to get their hands on them and ride these guys for the full entire 5 yards that they're allotted. And it's really it's convoluting a lot of their route concepts. The receivers are ending up on top of each other. Guys are in positions they're not supposed to be in. And therefore, Geno Smith doesn't have the time, nor does he have the space to be able to get the ball to the guys who deserve it. So if they can't figure out how to get some releases versus Dallas Cowboys, I foresee there being more issues for the Seattle Seahawks.
And that is why you have to solely take away the run. It has to be a non-factor. Because if you let this guy become a play-action pass quarterback and they have a two-way go at this thing, this is where these wide receivers will make their money. Do not let them run the ball, and Geno Smith cannot hurt you.
And that's the thing, is if that offensive line holds up for Geno Smith and allows him to have time to throw the football, these wide receivers will get open. That's part of it. Jackson Smith and Jigba will get open. Tyler Lockett will certainly get open. He has over 300 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns against this team, 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys through his 4 games against the Cowboys. So there are different elements of this offense that can hold up if the offensive line holds up. Let's take a look at the Cowboys inactive list that just released. So these are the Cowboys that are out for possibly Dan Quinn and John Fossil and company. Third emergency quarterback Trey Lance. Jalen Brooks is unavailable. Deuce Vaughn, Awesome Richards, Eric Scott Jr., and then Noah Igbenogany. No real big surprise there. On the opposite side, though, for Seattle, they do have an inactive, and it's Kenneth Walker III. He is out today. He came into the day doubtful. Wasn't necessarily sure if he was going to have a chance to go or not, but now Dan Quinn doesn't have to worry about Kenneth Walker. How does that change things?
I think it changes it up a lot. And nothing against, I don't want to butcher his last name, Charbonnet. Nothing against him, but I don't believe he's the same type of runner that Kenneth Walker is. When you look at Kenneth Walker, this is a physical, punishing, downhill runner out there. And Charbonnet, he can get in there as well. But when you talk about Kenneth Walker, this guy can carry defenses on his back. When you're going against a guy like that, you got to make sure your chin strap is buckled each and every time. And he has the ability to wear down a defense. So when you're not dealing with that type of guy, I think this defense, it has the upper hand when you talk about a running game for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, that dude is an absolute beast. Look at them doggone legs of those. I don't know what they look like Nate Newton's legs on his body, man. So listen, he's a beast, and they're going to miss him dearly. But the thing is, we just talked about how Trayvon Diggs went down this year, and all of a sudden Daron Bland steps up. I think that Charbonnet for the Seattle Seahawks is in that same position right now with him going down. Y'all are a mess. All right, so with the starting running back going down, Charbonnet's going to have opportunity to step up in the fold and actually have some chances to get some rushing against a Russian defense that has not consistently proven that they can shut down running games. Seattle is going to be stubborn in the fact that they are going to try to put the ball on the ground and try to move up to your second level and get up on those linebackers because they're not going to allow those guys for free flow.
I think they want to stay in the game, man, and they're going to try to take the air out of the ball. They're going to try to run it with Zach. They don't care that this guy's out. They're going to try to run the ball. As long as they're within striking distance of the Cowboys, they're going to try to have a punishing run game.
Yeah, they're going to try and get it going. And Isaiah, you may, if you want to turn around, we may have a throwback to training camp because
get hit in the head.
We're getting pelted by kickers. Now, neither one of those kickers have gotten anywhere close to us yet, but I'm watching out because I remember back to training camp, it wasn't nearly as pretty as it looks like right now. It was a little bit different. Brandon Aubrey's been fantastic. He was a huge signing really off the street for the Cowboys before training camp. What about Shaq Leonard? Could he be a signing for the Cowboys off the street? Free agent currently. He had a trip to Dallas. He has taken a trip to Philadelphia as well, scheduled to meet with a couple other teams at the second level. And this is really an addition that would help the depth at linebacker, but is it really a game changer across the board for this Dallas defense?
I don't know about a game changer, but if you go 1 to 10, I'm at about a 7.5, 8 right now as far as wanting Shaq Leonard on this team.
Pretty high.
It is pretty high because when you look at it, this guy is an all-pro. All right, this guy is a guy that's led defenses out there. And when you look at where the Dallas Cowboys want to go, they're going to have to go through teams like Philadelphia, the 49ers, and possibly Detroit. And we're talking about physical, downhill football teams. And when you see what these teams are looking at, they see 14 in the box. And Marquise Bell, he's playing outstanding as a safety coming down into the linebacker box. He's played outstanding. But those teams are going to point that out right there, and they're going to try to run at him each and every down. When you got a guy like Shaq Leonard in here, he can play first and second down. Those run downs, he can take off the toll of a Marquise Bell. You bring Bell in on third down to be that cover linebacker out there, and I think it makes your defense that much better. But to bring an all-pro in like that, I think it's a must for the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't disagree, Barry. When you talk about Shaq Leonard, the reason why he got the big boy payday, the reason why he was an all-pro is because of the fact that he can stop the run. Yeah. He comes downhill and he busts you in the mouth. He doesn't care if you're a 220-pound running back or he doesn't care if you're a 330-pound lineman. He's going to hit you in the mouth. He's going to stop it up. I'm going to leave it at that. He's going to stop it up. Okay? So you talk about the undersized Marquise Bell, right? Marquise Bell is undersized. He has been productive. But to your point, what happens when it starts getting cold outside?
You know what's going to happen.
What happens when you start playing the guys in the NFC East? What happens when you get to the playoffs? They're coming downhill. And if I can get past your first level defenders, then I'm not intimidated by the guys at the second level to come downhill and actually disrupt anything we have going on, then I'm going to continue to do it just like Marshawn Lynch used to say over and over and over again. So Shaq Leonard will be able to have a nice presence, and I think the confidence that he exudes will have huge benefits for this defense.
The bottom line is this right here. He left the Colts because he wanted more playing time. I think whatever team offers him that playing time, and, along with the money, the Colts already got to pay the bill. So don't worry about the money. Just give the kid the maximum playing time if you think he can come in and change this team around in late December, early January.
Yeah, the Colts currently owe him over the next 2 years $28 million.
Yeah, so he good.
Cap.
He good.
He feels
he's more than good.
He's wanting to play for a contender. That's part of it. And you've seen this before in the NFL. Whenever that dead cap money is pushed to the side and they make a decision to move on from a player, that player normally wants to go to a contender and money becomes less of an option. It will play a factor into it, especially whenever there's Dallas and Philadelphia competing against each other for a specific player. We'll talk about it a little bit later on during the week on DallasCowboys.com as well. But another player that could benefit is Micah Parsons, because having another sure tackler at the second level, a sure run defender at the second level, could help things out for a guy like Micah that sometimes does it on his own up front, and that has also provided a bit of frustration for Micah. Here's what he said earlier in the week about possibly being held on every play because teams are paying that close of attention to slowing down number 11.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I kind of wish people saw it the way I do, but, I kind of tell her, like, if you just look at me the whole time, you don't even got to look nowhere else. Like, you can just look right there, and it's right in front of you. It's definitely frustrating, and it kind of gets me an emotion side because I'm competing, and I'm daring to be great, and I'm challenging these guys, and, I know I'm getting the best of them, and it may not show up the way I want it to show up. So that definitely bothers me, but, I'm working on it. Playing cool, not letting it get the best of me. I think that's been the difference this year, between this year and last year.
Does it maybe give you, maybe not in the moment, but give you a little bit of solace to know that you're opening it up for other guys?
Oh, for sure. And I think that's something that we've been working on as a team. I kind of had to talk to AD, and the Q was like, man, I see what's going on. They making sure that I don't get started, or, they're trying to eliminate me from these games. And, I think they spent a lot of time trying to focalize me and, make sure I get one-on-ones in these game plans, but teams are just like, nah, we don't care what you show, what we do. We're gonna eliminate 11. So I told him, I said, man, don't be afraid. I get it. Like, don't be afraid to go to someone else. I think I'm at that point in the career where, I understand what you're trying to do, and I need other guys to get going, so that way it can open it back up for me. So it's a sacrifice time.
Micah Parsons looking to take the field tonight, maybe with a bit of vengeance on maybe the officials not giving him the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, he still finds a way to get home. He's in the double figures in sacks, and he continues to be one of the most lethal players off of the edge all season long throughout the NFL. Back here for Cowboys Pregame Live, Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Let's talk about Micah Parsons and what he's brought to the table. Both he and this front seven have been fantastic in terms of pressure rate this year. Tops 2 in the NFL in terms of highest QB pressure rate when double teamed. Osa Odighizuwa and Micah Parsons. Let's start with Parsons. He still is playing at a high level. What can you see more from Parsons?
Well, when he's getting those triple and double teams, so we all understand that's what's going to happen. When you're that guy on defense, when you're up for Defensive Player of the Year, guys are going to come at you in all different types of ways. Double teams, triple teams, all that stuff. So when it comes to Micah Parsons, where I like to see his growth at a little bit is when he's getting locked up at the line of scrimmage, get those hands up, all right? Affect the game that way. Bat some passes down to help your defenses up. We all understand when you tip a ball in the air, tips and overthrows, you got to get those. So it helps your defense out in the hole. But the rest of his game, he's an unstoppable guy out there. He understands what he has to do to rush the passer. But when you're locked up at the line of scrimmage like that, get those hands up and help your defense by batting some balls down.
It's always good to be able to get your hands up and knock the ball down. One area that I like to see him grow at is being more comfortable at the second level. And I don't mean lining up as a linebacker. I mean the ability to be able to drop out in zone blitz coverage and feel comfortable enough to be able to go out there and make some cover plays. I think if he's able to add that element to his game, then you can have a little smoke over here and have some fire on the opposite side and give Dan Quinn even more options.
A lot of times when you got a double team, it's a certain point of that double team, the apex of the double team, where you can split 2 guys. What he got to do is study the film a little bit more, because all the great players will learn how to do that. It always comes a point. You just watch Aaron Donald. It always comes a point where you can split that thing and make a play and get your hands up to bat the ball down and follow the quarterback. If you see you can't get there, Aaron Donald is who I'm talking about. He'll back up. Like you see, he'll back up. Oh, like he's dropping into a pass, try to make a play. There's so many ways that this kid can be productive besides sacking the quarterback.
No doubt about that. And you've seen the production from Micah in a number of different ways. We got to give credit to Osa Odighizuwa and the production that he's had. He actually has a higher quarterback pressure rate when double teamed, 18.4%. Isaiah, when you're watching the film and you're going back and you're seeing Osa Odighizuwa, what does he do best?
He's a pest, Kyle. He's a pest. And one thing we know about pests is they just keep coming. Right? They keep going. I don't care if you can spray him a raid, you can double team him, you can do whatever you want to. Them dudes are going to keep coming. And Osa Odighizuwa has been that for the Dallas Cowboys this year, and with his internal pressure. You talk about their ability to be able to shut down a majority of their running attacks that they've had this year. He's been a big part of that. To being able to get between guys. You talk about splitting defenses, splitting double teams. When you're disruptive and you require 2 guys to take you, you're freeing up somebody else that have one-on-one matchups, and he is giving these guys a lot of opportunities in terms of those guys that he's playing with next to.
You know, one thing I understand about Osa is he know how to split. He know how to split those double teams, but he knows a lot of times he's not going to make the play. He's going to force that thing. But when it's a run and he split it, he forced the cutback sooner than what they want to be. And sometimes when he split that thing, he runs them right into over into Parsons. So this guy understands his job and he does it very well. He's grown tremendously.
Yeah, and I've been pleasantly surprised with Odigizua. I mean, we've seen flashes of it last year. Maybe one game here, man, he looks unstoppable. But then we won't see him for another 2-3 games. And, he'll pop up in game 6. Now we see it on a more consistent basis. This guy is in there, and he's creating more pressure from interior defensive line. He ain't on the edge where you got to deal with one blocker. He's on the interior getting this much pressure. I mean, this guy may be the limit for Odigizua.
It's been impressive to watch those two go back and forth. And it's funny because Osa's never going to get the same publicity, the same possibilities that Micah Parsons would from an award standpoint. I think he needs to be considered for the Pro Bowl just based off of what he's doing. I think if you've got, by the way, you can vote for the Pro Bowl, by the way. It's open at DallasCowboys.com. Go find out. Hashtag Pro Bowl. Go get Osa Odigizua to the Pro Bowl because he deserves to do it. Okay, this is our 67th, or at least my 67th straight pregame live show. I've never had the chance to do this. This is interesting. I'm going to have to leave here in a little bit. I want to let it be known. I want to leave here in a little bit. Brad Sham is out tonight, and first off, I want to have my well wishes to Brad Sham, the voice of the Cowboys, legend in his own right and a mentor to not only me but a number of broadcasters in the country. I will be filling in for Brad Sham on the Dallas Cowboys radio network tonight on the play-by-play role for the Cowboys and the Seahawks. Really excited about the opportunity. Learned about it approximately 25 minutes ago, not very long, so this will be an interesting one, guys. So this will be fun. When I do leave, it'll be Bill Jones that'll come in and fill in this chair. So we will go the rest of the way on Pregame Live. It'll just be without me here for a little bit.
We just talked about when preparation meets opportunity, didn't we?
True. This is true.
Yes,
it's one of those things. We can bring in Bill right now. We're bringing in a chair. But while we do that, I want to go through these My Cause, My Cleats. This is such a cool initiative that the NFL does every single year. These are Osa Odigizua's in the Osa Odigizua Foundation for big brothers and big sisters. They're always so clean. They mean so much for these donations.
Oh, my goodness.
It really is cool to see these. Oh, the Jordan 1s are phenomenal.
That's ridiculous.
Really great for the Osa Odigizua Foundation.
Why didn't they make shoes like that when we was coming through?
Right? I mean, it's taken some time, right? Taking some time to get it done. The next ones are Brandon Cooks. This is for IVF, which is, of course, in vitro fertilization. And for those families that may have trouble conceiving at certain points throughout their children growing scenario, that would be one. And Brandon Cooks was affected by that. That's how their boys were actually born, was through IVF. So a really cool initiative there from Brandon Cooks. Next one is tight end Jake Ferguson. Alan Strong. Enough said. Alan Strong, Allen, Texas, of course, going through this tragedy last summer, and the Cowboys have been very adamant and very vocal about supporting the Allen, Texas community through that. And Jake Ferguson continues with that alongside as well. Tyler Biotish, the Center of Change, plus Tyler Biotish is also starting his own foundation coming up very soon. And you get it, Center of Change, center, that's the position he plays.
I love it.
There you go. That's a pun Nate Newton would enjoy.
Yeah, Center of Change.
Those are the first non-ugly offensive lineman shoes I've ever seen in my life.
Stop with that.
None
of our shoes ugly, bro.
Every offensive lineman shoe I've seen.
How dare you do that?
They go up to the calf muscle and all that.
That's too much. That's too much.
But
what about these? These are from Zach Martin, the National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation. Also, Terrence Steele will also be honoring the National Medal of Honor Museum.
I like that yellow, man.
A couple different things there as well. My Cause, My Cleats, always great throughout the year. And there's Bill Jones down there.
Hey, what's going on, Bill?
What's up,
Bill? How you doing?
Yes, indeed.
Glad they allowed us in here.
Yeah. It worked out. It worked out well, and
adds so much to the pregame flavor with these guys out here.
Yes,
no doubt about it. And there's so much to come here over the next course. You have your rundown. I want to make sure you're good.
I don't have anything, but
okay, I'll pass mine down to you then. But we've got Stephen Jones coming up here in a little bit. We've got CeeDee Lamb, Sots that you're going to have to pitch to, keys to the game, and we're going to talk some offensive line now. So I'll pitch the question. I'm going to run and hand you this, and I'm going to get out of here Appreciate everybody for Cowboys Pregame Live. But, yeah, this offensive line, of course, only 23 sacks allowed this year. That's 8th in the NFL. They've not allowed a sack in each of the last 3 games. Barry, when you look at what the Cowboys are doing up front, who deserves a lot of the credit?
Man, I don't know who to pinpoint on as far as the credit that goes, but when you look at this offensive line, I believe it has to do with health. I mean, these past 3-4 games, they've all been playing as a unit. They've let, Tyron Smith take off practice until Thursdays. That's really saved his body for the games on the weekend. And then you see the center Tyler Biadasz right there. This whole offensive line has been playing like a unit, and they've been doing their job exceptional. They have not let Dak Prescott hit the ground as much as he did last year. This team overall is playing great. You talk about offensively, but that offensive line is doing a heck of a job out there. And I don't know who to pinpoint it. Maybe Nate, maybe Isaiah, y'all can tell me, but I don't know who to pinpoint as far as where the success comes from.
I want to give a lot of success to Mike Solari. We got him last year. 2 years ago, he was with the Seattle Seahawks and improved their line greatly. Now he took a year off, and he's with us now. Mike Solari did a great job working with Steele, getting his techniques down. If you watch our show, Special Edition, you'll see Isaiah breaking that down a lot. So I want to give Mike Solari a hand, but I would like to give these players a hand. They hear us talking about them, good, different, good, bad, or indifferent. So these guys have picked their game up. They got a continuity going. They've been able to fix part of the run game. We like to see it better. Take away a few of the penalties, Isaiah, and this team will be okay as offensive line.
Yeah, to your point, I give a shout out to everybody that's a part of this, right? From Coach McCarthy all the way down to the players. I mean, ultimately these guys understand that everything offensively starts and ends with them. If the offensive line can't block in the run game, you don't have a run game. If they can't block in the pass game, they don't have your quarterback that you're paying all the money to. He can't deliver the rock, and neither can your personnel on the outside receive the ball. So these guys are taking that account and taking it upon themselves to have pride to go out there and execute their assignments and play within this scheme so that they can give their offense an opportunity to make some plays.
Cowboys ranking 8th in the NFL, only allowing 23 sacks this season.
You take the Cowboys offense here, and how about those NFL rankings for this Cowboys offense? Barry, when you look at that, I mean, it's up there top 5 in the league in every category virtually.
Yeah, when you look at this offense, they're top 5 in almost every category, like you just said, Bill. And to me, this is going to be a test. This game is going to be a test for this offense because, like we stated earlier, Seattle, their whole entire defense, they have Pro Bowlers on. You talk about defensive line, linebackers, secondary. The addition of Leonard Williams into that defensive line definitely boosts the interior for that Seattle defense. So they're going to be tested out there. But to me, if Dak Prescott can make sure he can make those great decisions like he has been doing these past couple games, this offense shouldn't have a problem with the Seattle Seahawks.
This is going to be the greatest test that the Dallas Cowboys receiver has faced all year long. This is the best secondary, hands down. You talk about the guys that they have at the safety position. They have a 3-headed monster, just like Dallas has a 3-headed monster at safety. You talk about their outside defensive backs and Woolen and Witherspoon. I mean, these guys are out here beasting. They're not only Dak's historically has had problem playing against zone. He's done a much better job of protecting the ball in that regard. However, these guys play 85% split safety zone, and they play it from a man technique. So it's going to be a little bit confusing from Dak in terms of being able to trying to decipher exactly what it is that he's seeing out there.
What we're going to see, I think, that is different from the teams we've seen in the past here recently is Jordy Brooks, the linebacker, and Bobby Wagner. These guys are tackling machines. They're both, between the two of them, they have 5 sacks. These guys, we're facing a better linebacker set of guys. They're going to come downhill and test our run game.
You know, it is interesting. You look at the Seattle secondary. You mentioned Reek Woolen out of Fort Worth Arlington Heights High School. Last game he got pulled from the game, and at the time that he got pulled from the game, they said it was not injury related, but afterwards Pete Carroll said no, it was an injury situation. Yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on tonight. But when you see what the Cowboys have offensively and the way this offense is clicking at the wide receiver position, and specifically CeeDee Lamb and what he has done, it basically started about 13 months ago, about midway through last season. He really came into his own here in this league.
Yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb is just finding a way to – obviously, he went out there and demanded the rock, right? They found a way to get him the rock early on while they were trying to still figure out this West Coast-style offense. But all of a sudden, now these guys have been able to do that as well as start finding their other guys in Ferguson, as well as B. Cooks, start getting all their playmakers involved. And the more playmakers that you can get involved, Barry, you can attest to this, the defense has to worry about more guys now. And if I can't just lock in on one guy because if somebody else might get me, now all of a sudden I have to play more of a base defense. I can't be as specialized as I want to be.
Yeah, without a doubt. When you can spread the football around, like you just said, it spreads the defense. You can't lock on where we're going to double team this guy. And I love how they're moving CeeDee Lamb around the offensive formation. They'll have him at X. They'll have him at Z. They'll have him at the slot. And that makes it even harder for defenses to pinpoint where he's going to be at to double team him. But the marquee matchup, and you mentioned it a little bit ago, is going to be between Tariq Woolen and CeeDee Lamb. You got a big, long Pro Bowl corner and Woolen out there who can get physical at the line of scrimmage versus CeeDee Lamb, who's Mr. Do Everything for the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to be a marquee matchup that you got to stay tuned on. But when you look at CeeDee Lamb so far this season, he's been immaculate.
And don't you just love the shades that CD is sporting here as he gets warmed up for this one? Let's hear from CeeDee Lamb now.
First of all, they're tall and fast. That's like game breaking, you know what I'm saying? To have that type of length on the outside is easy for them, and you know, you really got to work your technique versus those guys. You know what I mean? They're smart, they're young, they're fast, they're passionate about the game, and I mean, it's gonna be a great comp.
DBs are giving you a lot of attention this year. How are you finding a way to get past them, even when you're getting double covered?
Whenever I get my opportunities, I try to make most of it. You know, obviously, I feel like that's much respect to me, and also I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to the guys because you doubling me and then leaving everybody else one-on-one. So tell the guys, you know, they got to win their individual matchups, but as for me, just staying composed, waiting on my opportunity, and as soon as it comes, I got to take what I can get.
Is there a concerted effort in practice to have guys double cover you so you sort of have that expectation already during the week?
Not necessarily. I kind of go as the game goes. You know, some teams don't really necessarily be believers, if you will, and some teams just outright say that you're going to have to find someone else to beat us. And, I mean, you come across those teams and just finding different ways of moving me around, getting me involved in the offense, getting the offense going. And, I mean, obviously I have other guys that can help me. So just being a part of this great unit.
What a season CeeDee Lamb is having as we get you set for kickoff here. Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. And now we are joined by one Stephen Jones, who loves seeing what CeeDee Lamb is doing out there on the field. Right, Stephen?
Oh, yes. You know, it's amazing. Ever since he kind of spoke up, said, I need more balls, he backed it up.
This is true.
That's when our offense, I think, really started clicking. And certainly Dak's just done an amazing job of getting him the ball. But Dak's doing a good job of getting a lot of others the ball as well. And I do think ever since that bye week, this offense has taken a big step. And we seem to get better each week, and we need to do that this week. We need to continue to execute, continue to do the things that all the different things this offense can do and make us better down the home stretch. Still a lot of football to be played, but I think the arrow's up with what we're doing, not only offensively, but as a football team.
You know, earlier we had shots of CD. He had shades on. He's warming up. You know who's dressed for success? That would be the guy sitting next to you right there.
Yes, there's no doubt. I kind of felt like I was going to hide when I had to sit next to Nate. Although I do have a nice green one just like this.
Yeah.
We would have been Christmas, baby.
Yeah. But I do want to thank you and the family, because thanks to y'all, I can't.
But that goes all the way back to your playing days, when you were all pro.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, I think Nate's favorite day to play was on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, yeah.
And how about the feeling in that locker room after when Daron Bland, the last guy in the locker room after that game, win over Washington the other day?
Such a special moment. Our family, Daron was so nice to take pictures with everybody, but just seeing this kettle right here makes me smile. How our players had fun with it, and it's for such a good cause. Yes. Taking care of people who, you know, hadn't had the good fortune that these players have had, that we as a family have had, a lot of our Cowboy fans, to be able to have the Salvation Army get that kind of exposure, I think was just outstanding. And between Dak and CD and Daron Bland and all the great things that went on, it was, I think, proper on Thanksgiving to celebrate the Salvation Army.
I want to lean over there and see if there's anything hidden in the
I ain't smelling nothing, so don't worry. It's empty.
And you got a nose for a good
turkey. That's right. You know it.
All right, this week, Dak Prescott named the NFC Offensive Player of the Month. Daron Bland, the NFC Defensive Player of the Month. And the month's not even over. We still got one more game to play tonight. Talk about where this offense is, where Dak is, and the way things have been clicking here in the last since San Francisco.
Like I said, I think, as Mike jumped in, and, hats off to Mike. When he first came in, Dak was having a lot of success, and he worked with Kellen and didn't want to just change everything in one broad stroke, and I think it paid dividends. We've played a lot of good football, not good enough to get to where we want to get, and I think that's why Mike said, well, I think I can bring some wrinkles to this offense that can make the difference in us taking the next step and making our way, hopefully, to try to win a world championship for these amazing fans. But there's no doubt we get better each week. I think a lot of it is the execution and Dak getting his hands around it and knowing what he wants to do with this offense. And certainly we can get better. There's no doubt about it. We can run the ball better. People pointed to the red zone. We're getting that improved upon. I was at a meeting in New York on the competition. They said red zone success is at an all-time low. So these defenses are playing better, no question. Ask our defense is playing really good. So I feel really good about the direction of this team and look forward of our stretch run here. Obviously, this is a big hump. Mike sees it year in and year out, having to play all these games in a short period of time. But it'll be good if we can get in here and really take care of business and execute. It'd be a great 10 days if we could manage how to win this football game.
All right, Stephen Jones, we appreciate you joining us here. How about another locker room celebration just like last Thursday?
We'd love it. Great group right here.
Good job with you guys. All right, Cowboys and Seahawks straight ahead here, and Rico Dowdle, one of the Cowboys who making an impression this season at the running back position, and Nicole Hutchinson had an opportunity to sit down with Rico and interview Rico. We're getting Nicole in here now, and you look at the way Tony Pollard has played this season, and he's come on strong here in the last few weeks. Pretty good tandem here with Rico Dowdle and Tony Pollard. Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. So you had a chance to sit down with Rico, huh?
I did. And we just talked about his journey and the way that he's really had to be battle tested the last couple of years, coming in from his first year having to fight for some time behind Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. Then year two, he actually had the season-ending hip injury. Then year three, he had an ankle injury that cut his season short. Then you come into this offseason and the Cowboys sign Ronald Jones. So he's automatically thinking he has that number 2 spot, but he has to, again, be resilient. And that's something that I love so much about him. He's resilient. And I asked him, what drives you? And he said he had a lot of answers for that.
All right, do we want to hear from Rico now, Caden? Okay. All right, so let's hear from Rico now.
Now, my drive is I got 2 daughters, so, them just knowing I need to get the job done for them. But injuries, like you said, I've had a couple. I had injuries in college as well, so
yeah.
Just knowing it's just for the time being, and my goal is to always come back better than before. First of all, I think this off season, knowing that I had the chance to come in and be the number 2, I've worked harder than I've worked any off season. Just making sure I did the right things to get through camp, stay on top of my body to be at my top tier performance through training camp to go out there and win the job. So
you said you put in that hard work. What did that hard work look like?
I was up here working out every day. I go to this place called Built For It. It's out in Prosper. Just getting treatment on my body, trying to fix things that just bothered me in the past, soft tissue work, things like that. Stretching. I stretch every night still.
Been a special part of this offense, key part of this offense as well. And if you look on film, you're a guy that's good in pass pro, good pass catcher, explosive. But in your words, what kind of back are you?
All around. I say, yeah, all around.
What went into, you putting an emphasis on being that all-around back?
I don't want to have the terminology that he's just a third down back and things like that. A lot of guys, you see them, they good in one area, but then they struggle in other areas. Me, I want to excel in every area, so.
Okay. Versus the Giants, I was like, this is the Rico Dowdle game, right? A career day for you, 79 rushing yards, 12 carries, 6.6 average yards per carry. What kind of confidence did that give you, and what kind of confidence booster was that game for you?
I'm confident that I can go out there any and every game and play. That comes with the preparation that you put in. So it just was the matter of getting the opportunity to go out there and do it. So.
And you've made the most of your opportunities and been, like I mentioned before, been a key part of this offense. And it seemed like you guys were kind of struggling early on in the season.
but now you guys are, kind of putting the foot on the gas. What would you attribute that to, the success that you guys are having so far?
Just all of us buying in to the coaching, to the culture, and things like that around the building, us playing for one another, something bigger than ourselves. And I think that's going to separate us at the end, just us going out there doing it for each other.
Rico Dowdle and the Cowboys taking on the Seahawks here. Could be a big night for running backs. You look at the Seahawks last week, Christian McCaffrey had a 100-yard rushing game against them last Thursday night. And the game before that, Brian Robinson wasn't on the ground so much, but receiving yards, he was up over 150 yards from scrimmage. And Keaton Mitchell had 139 yards a few weeks ago. What kind of success do you expect the Cowboys to have on the ground against the Seahawks team tonight?
To me, I think it's going to be another big day for the Cowboys when you talk about the ground attack. We talked about the Seattle Seahawks, their secondary out there as a whole, and I think they can limit those guys on the outside. Not saying they can completely shut down the receivers for the Dallas Cowboys, but they can limit them, and that's why I believe it's going to be a big-time day for Tony Pollard out there getting these handoffs. Rico Dowdle, if he's able to go in tonight's game, it's going to be huge for the Dallas Cowboys to have a balanced attack going against Seattle. We don't want to see too much of 45 passes or 50 passes from Dak Prescott. Get that balance established because you're going to need it once the playoffs begin.
If you want to have a successful run game against the Seattle Seahawks, you have to work up to the second level. Simply because of the fact that these defensive linemen, one of the reasons why they went out and got Big Leonard Williams is so that these linebackers can free flow. Big Leonard Williams is in the middle. Okay, you got Boye Mafe on the outside. Those guys are clogging guys up. They're not allowing the offensive linemen to get up to that next level, which is the reason why freaking Brooks has 95 tackles. It's the reason why Bobby Wagner has 113 tackles. And we're talking about not even that. We're just getting in the second half of the season.
Man, I tell you like this right here, man. Use the guys how we need to use them. Get Tony on the outside, throwing some passes, and do everything with my man Rico Dowdle. I mean, we just did an interview on him. I should remember that. But Rico Dowdle, do what you do, baby.
All right, how about this? Who will have the bigger game tonight, Brandon Cooks or Jake Ferguson?
Jake Ferguson.
Jake, are you going with Jake Ferguson?
All day, every day, Jake Ferguson.
That is your man.
Yes.
I think it's going to be Ferguson. I don't think that the safeties of the Seattle Seahawks are great cover safeties. I think they're good hitting, fast safeties, but I'm not sure about their cover skills.
Jamal Adams down in the box, huh?
Yep, absolutely.
I'm going with B. Cooks on this one. I think there's going to be a lot of attention on CeeDee Lamb. I think B. Cooks might be able to get a lot of one-on-ones out there, and we've seen Dak Prescott, he's able to find Brandon Cooks when he has those one-on-ones. They've been able to take advantage of it, so I expect another big night or big afternoon from Mr. Cooks.
You know what? I can tell Nate can't wait to get to keys to the game.
That's right, baby. All right, keys to the game. My key to the game is make sure Jake Ferguson get the ball. Yes, sir. Make me right, Jake Ferguson. No, O-line, play with consistency, block well for the run, dominate in the pass, and we'll be okay.
I'm going to say that this Dallas Cowboys defense has to force two turnovers. The Seattle Seahawks have been struggling in that regard. Geno Smith is not being very accurate. If they can get home to him, he'll get happy feet. He'll throw it up to you all day long. Go out there and get those things.
To me, look, defensive line, they have got to take advantage of this leaky offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks out there, all right? Geno Smith has been under attack these past 3 games. We have the best pass rush in the National Football League, in my opinion. They've got to take advantage of it and make sure Geno Smith is basically just running for his life the entire afternoon.
Take care of business tonight, and then you know who's next.
Oh,
yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy.
Yes, sir.
All right, Cowboys looking for their 4th straight win, trying to get to 9-3 on the season. We appreciate all of you joining us. For Barry Church, Isaiah Standback, Nate Newton, Nicole Hutchinson, Kyle Yeomans, I'm Bill Jones, and we will see you again later.